Sports. It's who we are. It's what we do. It's how we roll. It's wins and losses, highs and lows. It's effort, respect, and dedication. The High School Sports Beat. Sports. It's who we are.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the High School Sports Beat. I'm Dave Yates. We continue our look at Section 5 sports with a flashback to our first season on 13 Wham and the boys swimming sectional finals from February of 2013. Here's Bill Pucka.
Last Saturday, there was a new Class B swim champion crowned, but for one more time anyway, it was Jeffrey Williamson's world. This was the Section 5 swan song for one of the area's truly great swimmers, Victor's Jeffrey Williamson. Jeffrey had times ranked among the best in 6 individual events. 6. Freestyle, backstroke, butterfly, and not surprisingly, with his versatility, the medley, where you swim all of it. As the Class B sectionals began, Williamson was clearly the focus.
I mean, I love this meet. It's so much fun, the atmosphere, and now it's coming to an end. But, I mean, States is in 2 weeks, so I guess there's stuff to look forward to.
Team-wise, the tone was set for the meet in the very first event, the 200 medley relay. Victor, featuring Williamson, had the top time in the preliminaries, but HF-L slipped Eric Bergward into the butterfly in an attempt to steal the race. Bergward swam head-to-head with Williamson in the fly before turning it over to Paul Tobin for the anchor leg. HF-L won the race by half a second and never trailed in the meet. Two events later, the most anticipated 200 individual medley. One lap each of 4 strokes. Williamson scored a new Section 5 record in the prelims, something almost unheard of, and try to better it here. Williamson would be pushed by Geneva's Lucas Reich.
I think it's going to be some great competition. I haven't really had anybody to push me all year in this event. I'm really hoping to go out there and give him a run for his money, and if I lose, it doesn't really matter to me. I just want to have good competition, have a good race.
Both bettered their qualifying times by considerable margins. Both will swim the 200 IM in the state meet. Williamson came in at 151.9, All-American consideration for a new Class B record and another new Section 5 mark.
I was pretty speechless. I mean, I was not expecting that at all. I went out there, raced, I got my adrenaline flowing, and it was a pretty nice experience, a nice surprise to look up there and see that time.
Nice to leave your mark.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely nice. Like hopefully my good friend Matt breaks the next 2 weeks at States, but it's nice to have that record.
Sophomore Nick Olson of Brockport was the top sprinter in Class B, winning the 50 free in 21.66.
A lot of hard work this year. I had to put a lot of effort into everything I've done, and I couldn't have done it without my team.
The race of the meet took place in the butterfly. The aforementioned Bergward of HF-L, favored on the right, was trailing Brighton freshman Noah Stevens in the final length. But Eric touched in 18/100ths of a second ahead of Noah for the Section 5 crown.
I saw him and I know I had to really dig deep, so I was able to, as you saw, I was able to be able to come back, and all of my muscles were aching at that point, so I was able to come back, thankfully.
Williamson wound up with 2 wins, 2 class marks, and a Section 5 record. All-American consideration in both the 200 IM and the 100 free. The meet's outstanding swimmer is headed to Princeton. Brighton was a defending champion with 3 titles in 4 years, but this year it was the Cougars of HF-L, champions for the first time in 10 years. Did you see this coming? Was this a year that you kind of pointed to and said, this could be our year?
Well, it's interesting. I thought last year was our year, and we came up a little short. It was a learning curve. This senior class needed to learn how to fight for it, and this year I saw them just step up to the plate and really compete tough.
Jeffrey Williamson swam at Princeton, where he graduated with a bachelor's in history. He's currently pursuing his master's at the London School of Economics and Political Science. Well, coming up next, Matt Trabold joins us for the High School Notebook. We'll have that and more when the High School Sports Beat continues. Hello once again, everybody. Welcome back to the High School Sports Beat. I'm Dave Yates. It is time now for the High School Notebook, and that, of course, means it is time for Matt Trabold. Matt, thanks once again for jumping on board.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, we're in the middle of the high school fall sports season, but we're going to talk a little basketball from college going pro.
So I had a chance recently to do a sit-down interview with the former McQuaid Jesuit Knight and projected 2020 first-round NBA pick, Isaiah Stewart. A lot of updates from him on his pre-draft prep for the big night coming up in a couple weeks. Very exciting. And this has been the most unique pre-draft time in NBA history for him and really everybody else, you would think, in this draft class. With the pandemic pushing back the draft date not once but twice. And when it has, it's been for many weeks or months each time. A big Section 5 connection with Isaiah's draft preparations is that his trainer since the pandemic hit is Fairport High School and Team USA coach Scott Fitch. They've quarantined together. Isaiah calls Fitch his shot doctor. Isaiah said Boston, Golden State, New Orleans, and San Antonio are some of the teams he has talked to. All 4 teams, very interesting, in the lottery, which makes sense because, it's not that arguable if you ask me. He could easily be the most NBA-ready prospect in this draft class. He, for so many years now, has had an NBA-ready body, if you ask me. Really since his McQuaid days, he's just so advanced, both for his position and really just the entire draft class when you look at that aspect.
I think it's awesome that a guy like Scott Fitch, is just being such a huge part in prepping him up for this.
Well, yeah, and Isaiah was saying it's really because he's been on a couple Team USAs, some of those younger age groups, not really like the LeBron and Kobe ones that you see for that senior national team, they call it. But because he's a big piece of the coaching when it comes to those younger age groups, because that's what he does at Fairport High School, that age group, he's been with Isaiah and training him for a little bit now, so Isaiah knew what he was talking about when it comes to the sport.
That's awesome. Great to see. Now let's talk a little soccer. Let's talk one of the top boys teams in the area right now, and that would be Penfield.
So recently, when you think of Class AA boys soccer teams consistently finding postseason success, you think of Fairport, McQuaid, Hilton. The 2020 season has seen the Penfield Patriots start with an impressive 6-0 record atop the class. Let's remember Penfield, historically, third all-time in Section 5 with 19 sectional championships behind Red Creek, Pittsford Mendon. The program won 4 titles in a row twice in its history, including from 1999, 2002. The leading scorer in the Monroe County League through 3 weeks is Shane McMillan. I was talking the 2020 NBA draft a minute ago. Arizona star guard Nico Mannion, he's Shane's doppelganger. I think Shane is quite an athlete just like Nico is. 1 goal in his hat trick versus Schrader. I was at the game recently. He bazookaed it across the goal mouth and into the side netting. When I saw it, I involuntarily, being kind of a weird sports person, yelled in my head, "Bazooka Joe, chew on that." Plus, it was scored on a longtime elite goalie around here, Ethan Ellis. Not easy to score on him if you want to continue with gum puns. Big-time chewing gum fan. I know you are as well. You can also call him Big Red because he is a striker with height. Hey, kind of across the board, Penfield is a huge team physically, including wingback Danny Gregory, Rare exceptions are brothers Taj and Cristiano Munarat. They make up for being a little bit shorter with footwork and foot power, depending on what side of the field a corner kick is taken on. Those are the 2 corner kick guys. So obviously a big deal there, I should say. They're a big part of this team. Senior Taj constantly wins headers over taller opponents. Sophomore Cristiano has every skill in the book to dispossess opposing players. Senior defender Joe Vogt is one of the top few Section 5 guys in terms of summer ball notoriety, and he's scored a handful of goals already as a backliner. He can come up on corner kicks from the Munarat brothers and head them in. I saw it with my own eyes. This team is so tough, and it's really fun because they just have everything clicking.
Tell you what, you worked in Bazooka Joe. You worked in Big Red. If you got Hubba Bubba in there somehow, you would have been my hero. I'm telling you that right now. Matt, always great to have you on, buddy. Thanks for joining us once again. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we're back with more of the High School Sports Beat right after this. Coming up next, it's the Making the Grade nominee with Kyle O'Gara, and later it's the experience of baseball in Rochester in April. Well, that story when the High School Sports Beat continues.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the High School Sports Beat. I'm Kyle O'Gara. Making the grade this week is Fairport senior Paige Harmon. Paige currently plays varsity tennis and lacrosse for the Red Raiders and has been on both teams for 4 years. Paige is a Class A1 doubles champion in tennis and has earned herself a spot on the All-Greater Rochester tennis team twice. In the classroom, Paige is a member of the National Honor Society with a 96% average and has made high honor roll all 4 years of high school. Outside of school, Paige often volunteers her time through church and has been to Puerto Rico to build houses. In the fall, Paige plans to attend Furman University and hopes to continue playing lacrosse. This week, Paige Harmon is making the grade. If you have a student in mind for our Making the Grade segment, we want your nominations. Send them into mtg@rocksportsnow.com. Now here's Dave with the Section 5 Spotlight.
Thanks, Kyle. Here are some of the athletes, teams, and coaches making news in our Section 5 Spotlight. Well, congrats to Spencerport sophomore Julia Zagrossi, who won the Section 5 golf tournament by a whopping 19 shots. Over the summer, Julia competed in several American Junior Golf Association events, including a third-place finish at Westmoreland. Rounding out the girl golfers who will compete in states in June, Jaden Ford of Pittsford, Caitlin Keenan and Kiara Lowley of Victor, Mercy's Michaela Ikes, Sophia Salura and Georgia Spatorico, Ava LaBelle of Webster, and Raina Hoffman from Wayne. And finally, the gymnastics season is underway. The Pittsford team won their opening meet with a score of 130.5, leading the competition against Genesee and Gates Chili. Well, coming up next, baseball in Rochester, always an adventure. Well, that story when the High School Sports Beat continues.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one. Score!
Welcome back, and thanks once again for joining us on the High School Sports Beat. I'm Dave Yates. As we flash back to our 13 WHAM debut season for a baseball game between HF-L and Greece Arcadia from April of 2013, here's Bill Pucko.
The spring sports season in Rochester is always a work in progress. The good news is the most important games are played under the best conditions. The bad news is April.
Chin up all the time, good composure, represent well.
Neither the homestanding Greece Arcadia Titans nor the Honeoye Falls Lima Cougars had the opportunity to play down south, as several of their league members did. For these two teams, this was opening day. 46 degrees, a game time with a steady wind off the lake that makes North Greece so pleasant in the early spring. It was raining by the third inning. Just another day in paradise.
We've had the boys out working hard in it because we play in this all the time. Like you were saying, we're right on the lake. It's 10 degrees colder here usually, so I think we're ready to play.
HF-L begins its baseball season with a renewed sense of accomplishment. The Cougars were 2012 sectional champions in Class A, having knocked off the perennial champs from Pittsford-Sutherland, winners in 6 of the previous 7 years. It was HF-L's first baseball title in 39 long seasons.
A lot of these kids are back from last year's group, so they've had success and they're hungry to keep having success.
So it's a tangible leftover from the championship season, you think?
I think so. We'll see. This is game 1, that's first game of the season, but I truly do think that there's a different atmosphere around because of the success we had last year.
Casey Wiggins was on the mound for Arcadia, and he struggled through a rough first inning. HF-L's leadoff hitter, Andrew Cigar, lined a scorcher that simply overpowered third baseman Joe Skabinski. The Cougars were in business. That first ball you hit, that's the way to get things started, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just seen the ball pretty well, and I took it off the end of the bat a little bit, but got a little in front as a curveball, but I hit it pretty good. Thought I was going to catch it, but luckily he didn't.
HF-L parlayed a couple of infield hits to the right side into 2 first-inning runs. The Cougars left the bases loaded, a recurring theme in this one, but owned a 2-0 lead. The visitors' starting pitcher was senior Ryan Quackenbush. Made a name for himself as a quarterback of the HF-L football team in the fall, and he got into trouble in the second. This time, Arcadia loaded the bases with 2 outs, scored a run on a walk before Ryan Schreiner's infield hit up the middle got the Titans even at 2-2. Next up was Sean Connor, batting third in the Arcadia lineup and first pitch hitting.
I consider myself to be kind of an aggressive hitter, and especially when it's cold out like this, you don't want to be standing up at the plate for too long, otherwise your hands get really cold. So I was going up there looking to swing.
Connor's long double gave the Titans a 4-2 lead through 2. In the third, Schreiner took over pitching duties for Arcadia and did well. But in that third inning, HF-L stole a run. Quackenbush at third came home on a wild pitch that bounced in front of home plate. You had no business coming on that play. How did you read it?
I just saw it pop up, and I just used my speed, and I got home.
I mean, that's a ball. It was right in the apron. You wouldn't ordinarily run on that, right? That's just instinct.
Yeah, it was just instinct. As soon as I saw it in the dirt, I was coming home.
The Cougars stole that run and were down only 4-3. In the bottom of the inning, a teaching moment. Arcadia put runners at first and third with 1 out against Quackenbush. A suicide squeeze was signaled, but the batter missed the sign. And that's why they call it a suicide squeeze. The would-be Titan run was out easily at home plate. Arcadia did not score. The Cougars, meanwhile, were leaving runners on base like crazy. Schreiner pitched out of big jams in the 4th and 5th. HF-L left 5 men on base and remained on the short end of a 4-3 game. The rain persisted, and it was getting dark. The Cougars rallied again in the 6th. Loading the bases with no outs, Hunter Wolf Zimmer worked a walk, and the game was tied at 4. Reimer was lifted. His catcher and Arcadia's designated closer, Jeff Rockow, shed the gear and came into pitch. The bases were still loaded, the game tied, and there were no outs. Rocco got Chris McCourt to ground into a force play at home. He struck out Cigar and got Denny Segru to fly out to right. He had pitched out of the ultimate jam, and the game remained tied.
It's an amazing feeling. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time. You got to work hard. You got to keep the peer pressure down. You got to focus, tunnel vision. You got to get through it. You got to bear down those strikes.
The umpires decreed that the bottom of the 6th inning would be the last played. If Arcadia scored, the Titans would win. If not, the tied game would be suspended. Facing the can't-win scenario, HF-L's Quackenbush would have none of it.
I had 8-9-1 coming in. My arm started to feel better as the game went on. The adrenaline was pumping. I thought I was throwing my hardest at the last inning, so it was good.
HF-L retired Arcadia in order to leave the game in limbo. They'll pick it up in the 7th, tied at a date to be determined.
We'd like to thank the athletes, teams, and coaches in Section 5. And if you have a story you'd like to share with us, let us know. Send an email to rocksportsnow@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. Be safe. We'll see you back here next week for more of the High School Sports Beat.